Wendy's with Forrest. If I can get this in right. How you doing, Forrest?
I'm good. Yourself?
All right. This is Charles with Exodus Dispatching and Training. I was in here having lunch and I noticed Forrest here, and I thought he was a truck driver. I questioned him about it, and he asked me some questions about what I do. What was the question you asked me? What I did?
You indicated that one of the things you do is teach people about dispatching.
Okay.
So I was curious about that. I don't have a truck. I'm not a truck driver.
Okay.
But dispatching might fit me better.
Okay. Yeah. What a dispatcher is someone who contracts with the carrier to find loads for them off the load boards, through brokers, through shippers, and things like that, and you charge them a certain percentage. The going rate for dispatchers now, the percentage is between 5 and 10%. On my network, Exodus Dispatching and Training, I have my dispatchers charge about 7%, kind of meet them in the middle. But the process and the workflow of being a dispatcher is you communicate with the carriers, the owner operators. You get them under a dispatcher agreement where they sign a contract saying, hey, yeah, I want you to be my dispatcher. I want you to help me find loads, book those loads for me, and I'll give you a percentage of that gross income. So say, for example, you get under agreement with a carrier, you find them a load, and you book that load through the broker through that process, and it pays $2,000. Let's just use that number, a nice, easy number. And so 7% of $2,000 is $140. So you just got paid $140 off of that. And that's just booking one load one way. So if you find them what's called a backhaul, having them come back to their origin or where they pick that load up from, that's another 7% of whatever that gross amount pays. So say that backhaul load pays $1,500. So 7% of that, whatever that is, you also get paid that. So you just do that on and on and on. So that's what a dispatcher does.
Okay.
So, and you work from home, you have the freedom, and you set your own hours, of course, and it's more of sales. You have to, pitch a certain script or a certain lingo or way to talk to the carriers in order to convince them that the service you're going to provide for them is what they need. So,
right, I understand that. How do I, as a dispatcher, find the loads?
You find the loads as there are several sources. One of the main sources is what's called a load board, where brokers and shippers post the loads for the trucks to be able to pick those trucks up. That's one way of finding it. Another way of finding it, you may have brokers that you already have relationships with. They provide loads also to you if you let them know that, hey, I got carriers that may be interested or may have trucks that are in your area of where your loads are being posted, the cities and states or what have you. Other ways also are direct shippers, but mainly you get a subscription to a load board, or if you join my platform, I provide subscription-based load boards where I teach you how to navigate those load boards, how to put in an origin and destination and the equipment type for that carrier, whether it be a flatbed, a reefer, or a dry van, and then the loads will pop up and you choose from the highest paying load or whatever the requirements of the carrier has. And then you book that load by calling the broker, communicating, having a dialogue with the broker, booking that load. So,
wow, it sounds intriguing.
Yep, www.exodusdispatchingandtraining.com. I'll write that down for you before we leave so you can have it as well.
Excellent.
But it's, www.exodusdispatchingandtraining.com. So I'm over here, guys. I'm over here still at the Big Charlie's. I'm in Wendy's, cheating a little bit on my diet, but don't tell my wife. But having a sit down with Forrest here, talking about dispatching and freight training. There is more than one way to communicate and get carriers under a dispatcher agreement. One way is cold calling. Another way is physically going to, if you have truck stops in your local city and state, go out there, communicate, meet and greet, talk to people, and they'll be more susceptible to listen to you if you show up in person as opposed to cold calling. Someone calling me out of the blue that I don't know you from Adam, but if you go in there and conversate, start a dialogue, you never know. So
I have a question on the regulations of moving a load from point A to point B.
Okay.
Is that something the dispatcher has to have knowledge of, or is that for the truck driver to work out? Or
so what regulations are you saying? Can you give me an example?
You see vehicles with wide load, and they have to have certain rules, like a truck in front of them and a truck behind them.
Right.
And so is that something I need to know as a dispatcher, or is that something the truck driver?
Yeah, you as a dispatcher, the truck driver knows because they would have done loads like that in the past But as a dispatcher, yeah, you'll learn that as you go. You wouldn't start off from the very onset of being a dispatcher strictly going straight to wide loads or oversized loads, or what they call OD, over dimension loads.
Right.
And what you mentioned front and back, what those are called pilot cars. What they do, they follow the trucks with the flags, and you see the little orange flags in the front and the back, and it has a sign that says wide load. That's a regulation that's required for the oversized loads, so no one to get in their way and things like that. But oftentimes you'll see cars still cutting in front of people and things like that. But those are, you'll learn that more I don't say advanced, but more intermediate level dispatching as you go. The broker will also communicate with you. They'll tell you, okay, this is an oversized load, so you're going to need this, this, and this. Those are called special requirements for that load. You're going to need, if it's going, say it's going from, we're in Norfolk, Virginia, so say we got a wide load going from Norfolk to somewhere in Carolina, like Charlotte. So if each state requires whatever the requirements are for that oversized load to run in those state lines on those states' interstates, like if it's required to pay for a pilot car, or if it's required to have oversized flags dangling from the trailer, or the trucks, then the broker will communicate that with you, and then the carrier, they will call the proper people they need to call to get those pilot cars or get those oversized flags for them. So as a dispatcher, you'll learn that as you go. When you come across a load from a broker that's an oversized load or an over width load, they will give you certain special instructions for that as well. So that was a good question for us.
Yeah, so as a dispatcher starting out, I can just not choose to handle that.
There you go. There you go. When I train dispatchers, I tell them to there are three basic equipment types that move the most freight most often. Those are the 53-foot dry vans, the 53-foot reefers, they call them, or refrigerated trailers. They just have, they're like dry van trailers, but they have a refrigerated unit on the front of it. It's called a TCU, a temperature control unit. And then there are the 48 or 53-foot flatbed trucks. Those are the three equipment types that move the most freight. And I teach that to my members of my platform. Go after those first. Sometimes you have people going after what's called hot shots and straight box trucks and things like that. But you have a little bit, I'm not saying it's you can't find freight for them, but it's more difficult to find freight for them. So stick with the most often moving freight.
The low-hanging fruit.
The low-hanging fruit, so you can start getting your feet wet, learning the process of dispatching, and then as you start to make money and start to learn and get the skill set up, then you can move on and venture out to the other loads, like heavy hauls, oversized, things like that. So,
yeah. So on an annual basis, what can I expect for dollars and cents?
Well,
about
I would say between 96 to 144,000.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example. Like I always give an example in my trainings. Speaking of which, I have live online operational training every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're more than welcome to tune in as a guest. I can give you the link to that free conference call for us. But back to the pay, the revenue. I give my students or my members an example of, say you got one carrier, you're dispatching 2 to 3 loads a week for them. And each load, say it pays $2,000 per load. And let's use 10% as a margin of what you're going to charge them. So 10% of $2,000 is $200, right? You're moving 3 loads for them, so that's 200 times 3, that's $600. And that's just one carrier for a week. Say you got 5 carriers doing that. You can manage moving loads for 5 carriers, each of them moving 3 loads a week. So 600 times 5, that's $3,000 a week. 3,000 a week times 4 weeks is 12,000 a month. 12 times 12, 144,000 a year. See how the numbers add up?
Yeah.
So the key is building to that point. So you start with one carrier at a time, maintain loads for them to the point where he has steady loads, consistent, and then scale up to another one, so on and so forth. So as you're growing, you're also building income and earning money. So that's how it works.
Okay.
So,
and I know there's a difference between local hauling and over the road hauling.
Right.
Is those is that like 2 separate dispatch learning curves, or
not necessarily. The process is the same. The only thing that changes is you're either doing short hauls or long hauls over the road. That's all. The distance in miles is the same, and the pay may be the same. As you do long haul, your cents per mile for a carrier, say they're getting $3 a mile locally in the city or regionally, but when you do long haul, it may drop down to $2.50 a mile or $2 a mile. But over the mileage, it still makes up the difference.
Right.
You know, as far as the income and the revenue. So
Okay.
that's how that works. So there's little things to learn here and there, the mechanics of it. But once you get in and learn the basics of it, then you'll grow as you learn with that one carrier, and then you'll be able to scale again and apply that same process with that one carrier as you learned it and build with that carrier. Apply it to the next one, so on and so forth. And you get to a point where, say, I can do this with 5 carriers, maintain these 5. I can run a pretty good lucrative business just with 5 people. And then maybe later on, as you grow your business, because this is your business, you'll say, okay, well, I want to bring somebody on to help me dispatch, and then train them, get them their first carrier, and then build them up while I'm maintaining mine. So now your business is growing. So now you see how you're scaling. So
Yeah.
So, and I've seen it happen. So, I mean, say a year or two, maybe a year that you've gotten yourself established, and then the following tax year, you'll say, okay, I want to bring somebody on and train them in the way that I've done it and gotten to
You're
that
not
point.
necessarily pulling them in as an employee. You're training them for their
Right,
own
they could
business.
be a subcontractor under you. They can work under you, get the skill set, and you guys split the percentage. You teach them, they book their loads, but they give you a percentage of what they make. So that they're working for them, and they're giving you a cut of what they're earning. So that's kind of like a subcontract kind of thing, independent contractor. So, okay. Any other questions for me, Forrest?
Nothing I can think of at this time, but I'll have your contact information.
Yep, I'll give you my contact information again for those who will be listening to this recording. I'm going to upload it to the YouTube channel and the website, www.exodusdispatchingandtraining.com, and the live online operational trainings every Tuesday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I appreciate Mr. Forrest's time. I'm going to eat my lunch and get out of here before my wife sees me.
My pleasure.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. All right.